The starship Horizon Drift glided through the silent dark of the outer sectors as its engines hummed with steady resolve. Inside its reinforced hull lived a small settlement of humans who had pushed farther than any before them. Among the crew was a young woman named Lila, whose quiet demeanor hid the turmoil she carried. She had grown up without knowing why her mother had abandoned her during a diplomatic trial on a distant world. The memory lived like a shadow at the edge of her thoughts. She had learned to suppress it, yet the wound never healed. She found rare comfort in a small piano, installed in the cultural wing of the ship by explorers who believed that even far from home the crew deserved the solace of familiar instruments. Lila played often during the long journeys. Her hands moved across the keys with a grace that surprised many who watched her. Music was the one place she felt whole. She did not know that her talent would soon become the center of events that would ripple across human history. She did not know that her estranged mother, Captain Mira of the Commonwealth Expeditionary Command, was about to return to her life in a way neither of them expected. The Horizon Drift had been traveling toward the Fringe Archipelago, a cluster of systems containing ruins from an ancient civilization. Precursor tech was often dangerous, but it also offered the possibility of propulsion breakthroughs that had tempted every major power in the galaxy. Yet the archipelago was contested. A species known as the Therin considered these ruins sacred remnants of their ancestral lineage. They blocked every expedition with strict warnings. Humans had respected these restrictions until a crisis forced the matter. The core Commonwealth fleet had suffered a massive failure in its primary jumper rays. They needed new stabilizers to avoid catastrophic collapse of long-range transport. Scans indicated that a stabilizer matrix existed within one of the archipelago vaults. If humans could not acquire it, they would lose the ability to maintain distant colonies. This conflict placed two factions on collision. The Horizon Drift crew had been sent on a peaceful mission to negotiate. The Therin, proud and austere, demanded that only those without political authority could speak on behalf of humanity to avoid manipulation. The Commonwealth appointed Lila as a cultural envoy due to her musical training, since the Therin venerated artistic expression as a universal truth of intention. Lila had no idea why she had been chosen until she received a message packet explaining that only someone with pure cultural identity and no lineage ties to command structures would be accepted. Her shock grew when she read a hidden note buried inside the file. It stated that her mother, Captain Mira, had deliberately withdrawn familial claims decades earlier so that Lila might qualify for such roles if destiny required it. The revelation stunned her. It contradicted everything she believed about her mother. She remembered the moment when she was told that Captain Mira had named duty above motherhood and left her in the care of distant relatives. Lila had resented her for years. Now she learned that the abandonment had been designed to prepare her for a future she never asked for. Yet resentment clung to her heart because the truth did not erase the loneliness she endured. She accepted the assignment, but vowed to complete it on her own terms. When the Horizon Drift arrived in orbit above the Therin shrine world Corinth, the crew sensed tension. The surface was a maze of crystalline towers that hummed when sunlight refracted across their edges. These structures were not natural. They were remnants of the ancient makers who shaped worlds like clay. The Therin guarded them fiercely. A delegation of tall figures with silvered skin approached through a landing port, while Lila stood quietly at the center of the chamber. Their eyes shimmered with pale light as if reflecting unseen Nebula. Edat the Therin elder, stepping forward, carried a staff that resonated with each footfall. He spoke in a soft tone that translated through the diplomatic interface. He asked Lila to demonstrate humanity's sincerity. Words would not be enough. They wanted a performance to measure her spirit. Lila felt her pulse rise. She had expected negotiation, not this test. Yet she knew that if she failed, the ruins would remain sealed, and the Commonwealth might collapse. The delegation transported her to a central hall within the crystalline towers. At the heart of the chamber stood an ancient instrument shaped like a hybrid between a harp and a piano. The strings glowed faintly within hollow crystal cavities. The Theron explained that this instrument responded not only to touch, but also to emotional resonance. It would judge intent. Leela hesitated. She had never played anything so alien. Still, she stepped forward and placed her hands upon the luminous keys. Before she began, she remembered the nights on the horizon drift when she played to ease the ache in her heart. She remembered the loneliness of childhood. She remembered the day she saw her mother leave without goodbye. A storm of memory churned inside her. But instead of letting bitterness consume her, she shaped those feelings into sound. She pressed the first key. A soft note rippled across the chamber like a droplet falling into a still pond. The instrument responded with an echo of light that swirled above her hands. The Theron watched in utter stillness. She played another note, then another, until a melody formed. It rose like a fragile branch against a strong wind, yet refused to break. The music carried sorrow, but also hope. Her touch grew more confident as the melody transformed into a soaring pattern that filled the hall. Light trembled through the crystal walls, as if the structure itself breathed along with her. Lila closed her eyes. She remembered the message about her mother. She realized that Myra had sacrificed their bond to give her a path that only freedom from lineage could open. This understanding fueled her next sequence of notes. She poured gratitude into the harmony. She let forgiveness rise in the rhythm. She allowed longing to bloom in the crescendos. The final chord pulsed like the heartbeat of a newborn star. Silence followed. No one moved. The Theron elder's staff dimmed then brightened as he bowed. He said that he had never heard a human create such resonance. He declared that the vault would be opened. The Horizon Drift crew exhaled with relief. They had achieved what diplomatic envoys and military threats could not. Humanity's spirit had prevailed through art, but the story did not end there. As the delegation prepared the vault access, Lila found herself approached by a tall stranger wearing a Commonwealth uniform. The woman's dark hair was bound in a precise twist. Her features were carved with discipline, yet softened by an expression that carried years of suppressed emotion. It was Captain Mara. Lila froze. She had not known her mother would be present. Myra asked for a moment of private conversation. They stepped aside into a quiet alcove illuminated by soft crystal reflections. Mira confessed that she had watched the performance from a monitoring deck. She said that she had never been more proud. Layla felt tears forming, though she held them back. She asked why she had been abandoned, even if the reason was strategic. Mira answered with a voice heavy with regret. She explained that long ago she had foreseen that political chaos would make her daughter a target if tied to command lineage. So she had severed the tie to protect her. It had been the hardest decision she had ever made. She said she had hoped that someday Lila would understand, even if Mira herself was not worthy of forgiveness. Lila felt the words pierce through years of resentment. She realized that her mother had carried guilt as heavy as her own burdens. She told Myra that while the past could not be changed, they could still build something new. Myra's eyes softened with relief. It was the first step toward reconciliation, but both knew that healing would require time. The vault soon opened, revealing a chamber filled with ancient mechanisms carved with swirling patterns. In the center sat the stabilizer matrix, glowing faintly. The Theron allowed the humans to take it under strict condition that it would be honored as a shared legacy, rather than a stolen artifact. The crew agreed. Yet as they prepared to transport the device, a tremor shook the chamber. Fragments of crystal fell from the ceiling. The vault was destabilizing. The Matrix had activated some dormant security protocol. Lila and Mira exchanged a glance, then acted without hesitation. They coordinated with the Horizon Drift engineers to stabilize the field. The Theron joined in. The chamber's energy levels surged dangerously. Lila stepped forward and placed her hands upon the nearby crystalline console. It responded to harmonic frequency. She realized that the mechanism could be calmed with resonance. Myra looked at her with a mixture of fear and awe. Lila began to hum a single note. The chamber lights flickered. She raised the pitch carefully. The vibrations aligned with the console. Mira relayed instructions to the engineers. They adjusted the containment field in sync with Lila's tuning. Slowly the wild energy subsided. The matrix dimmed to a stable glow. The vault fell silent. The Theron elder bowed again and declared that humanity had shown wisdom and unity. He said that the bond between parent and child had restored balance. When the Horizon Drift departed Corinth, it carried not only the stabilizer, matrix, but also a renewed sense of purpose. The crew celebrated Lila's courage. Mira remained aboard as liaison to escort the artifact. During the journey, mother and daughter spent several evenings in the cultural wing where the ship's piano rested. At first they sat in silence. Then they spoke in cautious words, then in honest ones. One evening, Lila played a gentle melody. Mira listened with closed eyes. She said that the music healed a part of her, she thought, lost forever. The stabilizer matrix was delivered to the Commonwealth Command. Within weeks, new jump arrays stabilized across the human territories. Colonies once threatened with isolation were saved. News networks across human space broadcast footage of the Theron Council acknowledging human artistry as a force worthy of galactic respect. They honored Lila as an artist whose song bridged two civilizations. She accepted the acknowledgement with humility, yet the most meaningful moment came when Myra formally restored familial recognition and asked Lila if she wished to accept it. Lila paused. The decision carried emotional weight. After a long breath, she said yes. Mira embraced her for the first time since she had been a child. The embrace was quiet yet full of meaning. The past remained part of who they were, but it no longer defined them. Years passed. Lila continued her work as a cultural envoy. She traveled between worlds, carrying not just human melodies, but also the message that understanding could triumph where force failed. Her story became a symbol of humanity's strength, not through conquest, but through resilience and compassion. She taught many that the universe listened not only to power, but also to harmony. On the anniversary of the Corinth mission, Lila returned to the Horizon Drift. She walked to the piano and pressed a familiar key. The note resonated softly. It reminded her of the path she had walked. Myra stood beside her now, older yet happier. Together they listened to the sound echo through the chamber. It carried memories of loss, reconciliation, and hope. Humanity expanded its presence across the stars with renewed confidence. Among all the achievements recorded in the archives, one moment stood above the rest. It was the day a young woman touched an alien instrument and let her heart speak through music. That song changed the future of two civilizations. It reunited a broken family. It reminded everyone that even in the vast silence of space, one voice could rise above despair. Lila never forgot that day, nor did anyone who heard the story. It became a testament to the belief that humanity, despite its flaws, could shine brighter than the shadows that threatened it. Her journey proved that courage did not always wear armor. Sometimes it sat at a piano and played a single note that echoed through the stars. And because of that one song, the universe listened.